When you grow up as the daughter of a superstar, people notice your last name before they notice your feelings. For Riley Burruss, being Kandi's daughter wasn't just a label. It felt like a big shadow that followed her everywhere. But under that shadow, there was a little girl who just wanted to be seen, not as a famous person's child, but as herself. From the day Riley was born, there were cameras around, bright lights, flashing pictures, people whispering about what she should do or who she might become one day. But the little girl behind all that fame, she wasn't ready for that kind of attention. She was quiet. She liked to think deeply. Many times, she would go silent and stay alone. It didn't show right away, but over time, Riley started to pull away. While other kids laughed and played loudly, Riley stayed quiet. While some asked for attention, Riley would hide from it. Even when she smiled, it sometimes looked like she was pretending, like she was trying to act in a way that didn't feel real to her. And then the internet made things harder. People began to comment on her weight, her looks, and her clothes. Some were mean. Some didn't think before they typed. They wrote things like, "Who does she think she is? She's only famous because of her mom." Those words hurt her deeply, much more than people could see. At school, at home, and everywhere she went, Riley felt the pressure. Not just to be good, but to be someone else's idea of perfection. That pressure kept building quietly, and the little girl inside her started to feel smaller and smaller. This was the shadow that Riley lived in. A world where her own voice was hard to hear because of what others expected from her. But this is only the start of her story. Because sometimes, the darkest shadows help us learn how to find the brightest light. Silence isn't always empty. Sometimes, silence is full of feelings and words that are too heavy to say out loud. For Riley, that silence had a lot to say, but no one really heard it. When Riley didn't answer questions, or stayed quiet in a group, many people thought she was just shy or didn't want to talk. Some even said she was spoiled, or that she didn't care about others. But what they didn't see was the storm inside her. The fear of being misunderstood, and the hard time she had trying to find a safe space to just be herself. Even when Riley was around friends, she still felt lonely, because she wasn't just a regular girl trying to fit in. She was the daughter of Kandi Burruss. And that made things harder. It felt like there were invisible walls around her. Walls made from what strangers expected her to be, and the strong feeling that maybe her real self wasn't good enough. It's not that her family didn't love her. They did. They loved her a lot. But sometimes, love is not loud enough to reach a child who has gone quiet inside. In moments when Riley really wanted to talk, she still chose to stay silent. Because to her, silence felt safer. But Kandi noticed something was wrong. She saw how Riley's eyes looked away when people talked to her. She saw how Riley held back and didn't act like other kids. Kandi could even hear the feelings hidden in the silence. She knew this wasn't just normal teenage behavior. It was a quiet way of saying, "I need help." A soft cry from the heart, waiting for someone to listen. The silence that no one else noticed was the loudest thing in Riley's world. And that silence was the first step in a journey that would change everything. Because sometimes, healing begins with quiet. Love doesn't always yell. Sometimes, love is a whisper. In a kind look, a gentle hug, or just being there without saying much. For Kandi Burruss and her daughter Riley, love was that soft, quiet power that always held them together. Kandi didn't try to fix everything all at once. She didn't force Riley to talk or explain. Instead, she just watched and listened. She paid attention to small signs, like how Riley paused before speaking, or how she would quietly move away from cameras. Kandi understood that pushing too hard wouldn't help. What Riley needed was space. Space to feel safe. Space to slowly become herself. There were quiet talks late at night. Just Kandi and Riley, sitting together, away from the noise of the world. Sometimes, Kandi would just sit beside her daughter, giving her comfort without saying too much. Other times, Kandi would share her own stories. Times when she felt scared, times when she had doubts, and dreams she had when she was younger. She wanted Riley to know, "You're not alone." Kandi's love was always there. Calm, gentle, and never demanding. She knew that confidence can't be pushed on someone. It has to grow slowly with care. So Kandi guided Riley carefully, helping her explore life in her own way, without the heavy pressure to be perfect. That quiet, steady love became a safe place for Riley. And slowly, Riley began to believe in herself, believe in her mother's love, and believe that she could speak for herself. It wasn't a big, sudden change. It was a slow and steady journey built on love and patience. In a world that often asks for big voices and fast answers, Kandi showed Riley that the strongest kind of love is the one that waits quietly, that watches, and that whispers, "I'm here. I see you. I believe in you." Growing up in the spotlight is not the same as growing up in a normal world. For Kandi Burruss, her childhood felt like a battlefield. She was stuck between the sweet life of a child and the famous world she was born into. On one side, she was just a kid who wanted to laugh, play, and feel free. But on the other side, she was Kandi's daughter, a name that came with cameras, judgment, and pressure all the time. She felt pulled in both directions, but it felt like neither world truly accepted her. The internet was very mean. People made fun of her weight, her clothes, and everything she did. The bad comments felt like heavy stones on her shoulders. Every rude word made her feel less sure of herself, like maybe she wasn't good enough under all that attention. Being on the Real Housewives of Atlanta meant her life was always out in the open. Every time she smiled, people judged it. Every time she cried, people talked about it. She almost never had privacy, and the pressure to look perfect and act perfect never stopped. But even in all that, Kandi tried her best to protect her. She stood in front of the hate, defended her daughter, and reminded Riley that her true worth had nothing to do with what people online said. Still, the battle wasn't easy. Riley struggled to stay a kid while dealing with the hard world of fame. Some days, it felt like she was losing the fight, like she might forget who she really was. This was the fight Riley faced every single day, trying to hold on to her true self, while the world kept trying to tell her who to be. But in every hard journey, there comes a turning point. And for Riley, that moment was getting closer. Sometimes, the hardest thing to do is to speak up. But for Riley, finding her voice wasn't just about talking. It was about taking herself back and saying, "This is me." After many years of being quiet and doubting herself, there came a moment when Riley said, "I'm not hiding anymore." She wanted to be seen and heard, not just as someone's daughter, but as her own person. Kandi was there for Riley every step of the way. With kind words and constant support, she encouraged Riley to speak up, to share her feelings, her dreams, and her struggles. She reminded Riley that her voice was important, that what she said mattered, and that telling the truth about how she felt was the first step to feeling free. Riley slowly started to open up, first with small conversations with family and close friends, then in bigger ways, like on social media, in interviews, and at public events. Every time Riley spoke out, her confidence grew a little more. Finding her voice changed everything. It gave Riley control over her own story. It helped her change the way people saw her, and most of all, it helped her heal. From a quiet little girl who once felt like she didn't matter, Riley had become a strong, proud young woman who was finally being heard. Her voice wasn't just sound, it had become her power. Being a mom in the spotlight is not easy. For Kandi Burruss, protecting her daughter's heart meant learning hard lessons. Lessons about love, sacrifice, and real strength. Kandi knew that the bright lights of fame could help a person shine, but they could also hurt. She wanted Riley to have the best of both worlds, to follow her dreams, but never lose who she truly was. But that balance was very delicate, and sometimes it felt too hard to keep. Kandi's most important job wasn't her career. It was protecting Riley's heart from all the noise, judgment, and pressure around her. She learned when to help and when to step back. She learned when to speak and when to just listen. Everything she did was to give Riley the space to grow, in her own way and in her own time. Being famous made their journey a little different, but at the center, it was just like any mother and daughter. Unconditional love, patience, belief. Kandi's story isn't just about being a celebrity. It's about a mother's strong heart, doing everything she could to raise a daughter who knows her worth. Their story teaches us something powerful. Behind every headline, behind every flashing camera, there is a real family, with real struggles, real love, and real hope. And sometimes, the biggest success isn't fame or money. It's the love that helps us become who we truly are. In the end, this story isn't just about a girl growing up in the spotlight. It's about a mother who chose love instead of pressure, and a daughter who found strength in her silence, and turned that silence into power. Riley Burruss didn't become confident because of the cameras. She became confident despite them, because behind her was a mother who saw her pain, and stood by her, quietly, strongly, and always. And maybe that's the real legacy, not the fame, not the fortune, but the unbreakable bond between a mother and daughter, who walked through fire together and came out shining.